Today, I wanted to talk about how we can use AI to uncover what your audience is really asking. Hi, my name is Donna Peterson, and I am here. We're going to dive deep today into what is your audience asking. A lot of companies out there are producing content and hoping it sticks. But with these tips we're going to talk about today, we're not just going to be throwing out there content. We are going to be producing content that is of interest to our audience, but we're going to word it in a way that they see it and they say, oh my gosh, they know exactly what I'm talking about. They know what I need. I need to work with them. At World Innovators, we've always believed that building trust comes first. And when you create content that answers the specific questions that your audience is looking for, that is the best way for you to build trust.
Before we jump in, your host is Donna Peterson, and you are listening to the B2B Marketing Excellence and AI podcast. We come to you every week with actionable tips and suggestions that can help you be more efficient, create better marketing plans, and be a salesperson that really closes those leads.
Today, we're going to go over 5 things: why the questions matter. 2, what tools can help you find those questions that your audience really has. I'm going to give some examples that my listeners may have that they want to use in order to attract their right audience. Then, how do we turn those questions into content? And then the last thing, the 5th one, and this is always my most important one: how are we not going to overcomplicate this? How are we going to do this as easy as possible? So let's jump in. Why do questions matter? Well, let me ask you, when was the last time you Googled a solution versus a product? Did you ask questions? What is the best TV to give me the best definition when I'm watching my football games? What are the best cross country skis for me to have if I'm doing a lot of uphill terrain in the Northeast? You see, you add in all those details and you ask the question in order to get back the answer. And that's exactly what we need to uncover today. We need to uncover today, what are those questions our audience is asking? And for a lot of my clients who have expensive offers with very long sales cycle, your audience has a lot of questions. They have a lot of questions that they're going to ask before they ever approach you. So, whether you're selling industrial pieces of equipment, you are promoting an executive education program, or you've got a big auction coming up, chances are your prospect's decision starts with a question. So, tools that we can use for these questions. How do we uncover these questions? Well, one, and I'll always say this to people, is go to trade shows. When you are at trade shows, it gives you a plethora of information. This is where you can start to really understand your audience. What are they interested in? You see the exhibitors on the floor. What are they promoting? You go to the sessions, you hear what they're speaking about. And then the best one, eavesdrop on people while they're at the show. Sit in a coffee shop. They always have those networking events. Go in there and eavesdrop on a conversation. Hear what they're talking about. That is the best way to give you some of those pieces of information that you really need. You do not need a fancy agency. You don't need a ton of people doing this research. You need to be curious and you need to set up some workflows, but also some smart tools that you can start to utilize. So the first one is just yourself. Get yourself out there in those situations to eavesdrop, to hear what they're talking about. Then, if we're going to start to look at AI tools, ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a great way to get started, to dive into your audience. See what questions, what challenges they might have, and what goals they might have. Maybe you find out what challenges you have and then ask ChatGPT, based on these challenges, how would you word the questions they might be asking in Google, that they might be researching? Because what you want to do here as a brand, and we did this at World Innovators, everyone talks about hashtags and keywords. Well, for World Innovators, we work in very specific niche. We don't want to be trying to rank with keywords or terms that a lot of the bigger companies are going after. We'll never rank high enough. We want to go into very specific long tail keywords or phrases or questions that we can easily go and rank number one for, because then our audience is going to find us. So we use these ChatGPT tools to not only research and understand our audience, start to find out their challenges and their goals. Take those challenges and goals and tweak them into questions, and then make those questions the focal point for everything we do. Just like I did for this podcast episode. I researched all of you, my listeners. I know who you are. And I said, what are questions that they might be having? And a lot of times is, as a brand, how do I get recognized? How does my audience see me, find me? And that's why we're doing this. And so I'm using this question that I post for you as the top, as the core of all the content we create. So we'll have a podcast, we'll have a blog, we'll create emails, we'll create social media posts, all around that top question. And if you don't remember the top question we're talking about is how to use AI to uncover what your B2B audience is really asking. I don't want to be talking about things that aren't of interest to them. First, if I talk about things that are of interest to them, they will start to see that I truly care about them and their industry. They'll start to trust us, but we'll give them that information that they need. So you do that. Use ChatGPT to start to uncover what is most important to these people and put it into a question. Then you can go and you can utilize some free tools like AnswerThePublic or AlsoAsked.com. Put it in there and see, are these questions my target audience is really interested in? And how easy is it going to be for me to rank number one there, or close to number one? And after you utilize those free tools, there are some tools that you can purchase, like SEMrush. SEMrush has been great because it can show how many searches you get, how fast you could rank for them. We don't want ones that get a ton of searches, because that's where all the big people will be there. We want those searches where maybe they're getting 10 to 20 a month. You're not going to see a drastic jump, but we're going to see that nice gradual growth showing us as number one month after month after month, because we are talking about topics that are truly of interest to our audience. So SEMrush can help you out there. The next one, I love this, Fathom. I talk about Fathom a great deal in my AI presentations because they have an AI feature that are great. And now I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but Fathom, and you can get a free version. We do have a paid version with it, but even with the free version, it gives you what your takeaways are from the meeting. It gives you an action item plan. But what you can do is you can start to analyze the transcript for those questions. It can go through, maybe you have a conversation that lasted 55 minutes. Well, what were the top 3 pressing questions within that discussion? You now can take those questions and do research saying, do a lot of my audience have the same question? And you can even dive deep into ChatGPT saying, if I answer this question, is it in line with the services we have to offer? That's always very important because even with me, I get topics that I think I should talk about, but they don't fuel our end goal as a company. My mission right now is to inspire success, which everyone knows. Then I can talk about a plethora of different topics. But sometimes I've got to wean myself in by saying, okay, but will this topic align with our services? We're not Santa Claus here. It's not a non-for-profit. So I've got to make sure that what we're putting out there is going to help us in the end, reach our target audience, give them value, but also show them how possibly they can work with us. We can help them set up those workflows. We can help them reach that target audience or leverage AI. And we want to put that content out there to help them to make these decisions. So utilizing Fathom is a great way to go through those transcripts and really uncover the questions that are most pressing to your audience, especially if you do that with a few transcripts and you get a commonality with a question that several people ask, you know that's a question you need to approach. That's a question you need to create a video of, a podcast episode, a blog, or a social media post. And here's a tip. Keep a running Excel spreadsheet or a shared document of real questions. I'm doing this for my team so that we all have this shared sheet to work off of when we are creating content. I don't want my social media over here figuring out their own questions. I don't want the person here who's going to help me write blogs trying to figure out what they're going to write content out. And then I'm over here trying to figure out what to create podcasts about, because you see what's happening? I've got a tree. Everyone's working in their own little place. No, we all need to come together. We need to see what are the pressing questions. And then we all have to create messaging around the same questions, because then this content is out there and it's going to help us rank better, because you're going to see content constantly created on the same topic. And because I have different people writing it, it's coming from their viewpoints, and they're all going to complement each other. It is a great way to give a nice, cohesive, educational piece around one specific question. Some real live examples might be, and I have a little sheet here for my clients. If you're a manufacturer, what's the ROI of upgrading a legacy CNC machine? What's the difference between press brakes and a panel bender efficiency? You know, these are different questions there as a manufacturer you might want to use. If you're in the executive education program, maybe you have which executive certificates are most respected in the biotech industry. And these are questions I have already done research on. You see, I have my little sheet here for my questions for my different target areas of my clients. And these are questions you can put out there. How do I get my company to sponsor an executive program? That one is so important, because executive education programs are expensive, just like machinery. There's not usually one person making the decision. The recipient who receives the email or sees the podcast or reads the blog needs to become an advocate for it to get the other people to agree it's important. When you're dealing with these expensive offers with long sales cycle, it takes more than one person to say yes. It can be 4, 5, 7 different people that have to say yes, and you need that one advocate on your team. The last area I want to touch on is my industrial auction friends. Maybe it's, where can I find unused solar panels for resale? These are questions you can start to create content with. Or how do I bid on manufacturing line equipment with confidence? That's a big one, because when you're selling equipment out in the auction space, How can companies have confidence that this piece of equipment is truly going to help them? No company wants to buy a piece of used equipment to only get it all the way into their facility to find out it's not the right fit. It doesn't work as efficiently as they thought. It's not going to work. So create content where they can have confidence on using an auction to purchase equipment that they can get into their facilities right away. That's another question to answer. Why would I even think about going to an auction to buy equipment versus buying brand new? That's just a few tips for my target audience on questions that they can build content around. And those are the questions that you need to take and really think of it in many different directions so that you can create that blog, you can create a LinkedIn video, and you can have an email with a headline where they all feed into the one question, giving you that nice foundation of really offering value to your target audience. How do you turn those questions into content? That's kind of what we just talked about. But again, ChatGPT can help you with that. ChatGPT, you can say, this is a question I have. Can you help me create an outline for a blog or an email series, all based on the question? It can say, for me, I could put a question out there and say, do we have previous podcast episodes that could help answer that question, giving our contacts more value added? Now you're really supporting that question and giving them answers. You've got to add your expertise. Now, when I'm saying use AI for the blog, did you hear me say? I said outline. I don't want you to go and use ChatGPT to write the entire blog. No, that's not it. You got to make sure it's your voice, it's your mission, your company's mission. So go in there, you got to use your expertise to then change that draft and add your human insights to it. That is so very important. Then take that content that you created, whether that it was that blog, and then repurpose it into a series of social media posts on LinkedIn, on X, or Instagram, if that's what you use. Create a newsletter. For us here at World Innovators, we pose this question. We have several pieces of content. And at the end of the month, we create a newsletter that recaps everything. So now when they get that newsletter, they're seeing the blog, they're seeing the podcast, they're seeing sometimes social media posts or a presentation that we gave that all come in complementing each other, giving the recipients more and more extra value to the message to answer that question. They'll see us as a thought leader in our space that we can definitely help them. We will give them confidence that our services will answer their questions or fix a challenge they're having or achieve a goal. This is what you need to do. When we work with clients, we set up a system so that they're heading in that direct line to achieve their goals. They're not doing the tree thing. You don't want a tree. You want a direct path. And we do that by finding out what their target audiences are really looking for. Just like we did here. We went in, looked at our target audience, and figured out what question is of importance to them. Now, don't overcomplicate this. I know right now I gave you a lot up above, and you're probably like, oh my gosh, how do I get started? How do we do all of this? Start simply with one question a week. I don't know if any of you know Marcus Sheridan. He gave a great presentation at HubSpot many, many years ago because he had a pool company. And when blogging just started to become around, he would go home and he would write blogs on questions his clients asked. I think he did it daily, if I'm not mistaken. But it was all based on that premise where he would remember what the clients were asking him about the pool. And then he went home and he wrote a blog. Because guess what? If one of your clients or prospects is asking that question, there are others with that same question. So we need to follow Marcus Sheridan's lead in doing this, but take one question a week, which will give you 52 pieces of a content each year. And then with those 52 pieces of content, like I said, you might have a podcast episode, but now you have social media posts, you create a blog, you send out an email, you have the newsletter, and all of that gets pulled in together. And AI can really help us do that. But don't overcomplicate it, where if we're starting with one question a week, that's easy. We all know the questions. If you've been to a trade show in the last 6 months, you know the question. I was at FabTech at the beginning of September. I got a lot of ideas for questions. And that's why you need that Google Sheet or the Excel spreadsheet, keeping track of the questions so that your team can determine which one are we concentrating each week. Keep that list going. Involve your sales team too. That is important because your sales team gets all the questions. Grab your customer service department if you have one and ask them, what is a question you were asked over and over? Those are the questions you want to answer. Your sales team, then you create content around the questions the sales team uses a lot. Make sure they get all the links because now they have those links and they can share it. If you're creating any AI agents, I know that's top of mind for everyone. We're starting to create that for our clients, but this is exactly the type of content we want to have out there because people will go into an AI agent, ask that question, and now we can serve right up that podcast, the newsletter, the social media posts, everything that we've posted around that question is right there. You now can let AI do the heavy lifting for you. AI can help you find those questions that are specific for your target audience. They can help you create those outlines so that you can create a good blog to get out there. But remember, AI is an assistant. My AI is my amazing Izzy. You might call it your amazing intern. Whatever you want to call it, it is an assistant. It is someone you must review and always go over to make sure the facts are correct, but make sure the context is correct and they're answering it in a way that would sound like your company, your brand. If you start with that right question, everything else will become easier. You know your business. That's why you're here. If you know your business, you know how to answer that question. So now create that content that answers that question. Get those emails out there, create a blog post, and even do some trade show outreach all around those questions. If you need any help building a system so that you can quickly get on that direct path of achieving your goal, bringing in the right leads because you're putting that content out there, please feel free to reach out to us. This is how we help our clients all the time, by reaching their specific target audience, delivering content that speaks directly to them. And when you have those subject lines out there or those social media posts where it's right at the top, posing that question, it's top of mind, they are going to reach. They're going to read it. They're going to open up that podcast and listen in. They're going to open that postal piece because it speaks to them. Reach out to us. We help clients with that all the time. Remember, until next time, keep building relationships. Relationships are the key to success. Relationship is the key for a meaningful life, both in your personal and in your professional life. Keep asking better questions and answering them for your audience. And always inspire success. If you found this podcast helpful, I need you to give it a thumbs up. We need to spread the word on how to do quality marketing that really speaks to our audiences. The generic messaging out there, the generic content, just doing these broad general promotions, they're just using up everyone's space. They're time consuming. We're not creating relationships. It's a waste of time, and it's bad for the marketing industry as a whole. Please endorse this podcast, share it with your friends, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the World Innovators YouTube channel so you get all of our announcements about future videos or podcast episodes. Until next time, I hope you all have a great day. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the World Innovators B2B Marketing Excellence and AI podcast. If you'd like to be updated when new episodes come out, don't forget to subscribe. Also, check out our social media accounts to stay up to date on B2B marketing trends.